The Rough Drafts podcast is sponsored by Unicorn.com, the world's premier esports betting site. Bet on your favorite games like CSGO, Dota 2, and League of Legends, and earn Unicoins through successful bets, or use Unicorn's exclusive Connect program, where you can earn Unicoins just by playing some of your favorite games. Use your earnings to enter Unicorn's raffles for exciting prizes like Logitech peripherals or CSGO skins. So join Chase and Walter and prove who really is the esports gambling expert. Unicorn.com. Log on today. Hello, Internet! This is Walter, Ceades, Fedczuk, bringing you another edition of the Rough Drafts Guess the Line European podcast for the 2017 Spring Split. It is week 2. We have actually played professional League of Legends games on the beautiful continent of Europe. We've seen the teams play. We've seen the rookies make their debuts. And some were good, some were bad. Some are kind of in the middle. And you know, I have someone that is one of those three things, and you all can decide which one of those three things it is. I am, of course, referring to my great podcast co-host and good friend, Chase, RedShirtKing Wassenar. Chase, European League of Legends. Is it everything that we had hoped and dreamed for?
You know, I think it would have been had I not made the mistake, and I do this every year. I watched Korea when it first came on Tuesday. Same. I stayed up for the midnight series. It was so fun, right? It's like, yes, we have League again, and oh, these teams are going back and forth, and KT was doing great stuff, and Africa showed up, and SKT looks dominant. Faker's playing even better than ever. This is so great. And wait, Europe, what are you? guys, no, the basis is that way. What are you? Wait, how did both of you die? It was just, I mean, look, I love Europe. I love a lot of the coaches and players over there. I'm excited to talk about because I think there are a lot of fun things that we saw. I do think that you have to put things by their standard, right? These are European teams. They need a little bit more time, a lot of them, in order to kind of sort their rosters together. We'll have to take some sloppiness along the way while they figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have to accept it, but from some of these teams, it seemed rather inexcusable to me, given that they had so much synergy towards the end of last year. I'm not picking on one team in particular. We'll get to them in a minute. But negativity aside, yes. Week 1, what is one thing that stood out to you in like a positive way? Like, what was one thing that you kind of like, when it happened, you were like, that is interesting.
Yeah, I had a couple of things real quick that I did love. They're kind of groups of things, so I can consolidate them together. I loved the creativity that we saw on display with a lot of these compositions here. You saw some fun things when you look at what the Unicorns of Love were doing, obviously, with Lulu support, Ivern and Kassadin. That was fun. I loved seeing those kind of picks come to the forefront. I loved seeing, teams, they did seem to make use of all of those pick and bans to have some really interesting characters come to the forefront. I will also say the thing I was mostly pleasantly surprised by was just how many of these top laners I had concerns about just came to the forefront. Sartorius looked good. He looked solid. Yep. Expect looked a lot better than he did last year. I liked his teleports significantly better than I did most of last year. Blackfish was a legitimate player.
Yes.
He is a worthy LCS starter, and you know what? So is Faxi, for the record. I thought Faxi played well considering the circumstances around him. So really, if you're looking at, some fun pick and ban stuff, but mostly just top laners came in, did their job, locked down the position in a way that I don't think it has in Europe for a while. And that's fun. That I appreciate that as a fellow top laner myself.
The second Flackshish locked in Alawi, I was like, oh boy, Chase is about to learn about the Flackshish Alawi that he played multiple times in the North American Challenger scene. Definitely fun. I felt fairly vindicated when he had a very good showing in his game one. 46 total champions were contested in Europe. You bring up the interesting picks and bans. 3 champions out of that 46 weren't played at all. They were just part of bans. Those were Elise, Talon, and Trundle. So 43 different champions have been played so far in week 1. That is pretty awesome, pretty substantial. I don't have numbers for anything previous. I just remembered yesterday I looked up North America's, and since you brought that up, I wanted to bring up Europe's champion diversity as well.
Quick way to put it in perspective for those of you who did watch Korea. Korea had 42 unique champions in week 1 and played more series than Europe did. So Europe is definitely going all in on the creative up front, and I'm loving it.
Absolutely. I would say for me, the like more interesting thing was H2K. H2K looked really good, and in a way that they sort of. It's weird because we've looked at H2K and the past year and a half basically has been very much about Forgiven. It's been very overpowering, aggressive laning style. This harkened more back to when Hjarnan and Kosing were in their bot lane, where it was much more reserved, much more utility, team fight cleanup focus. They weren't necessarily dominating lane. They were playing it pretty passively, but because it was so safe, that it sort of pulled opposing junglers' attention, which really allowed Jankos to have his run of the kingdom, essentially. He is the First Blood King, and it's really nice to see that he hasn't dropped off at all compared to his Worlds performance. So to me, that was really refreshing. And my one issue is that if Jankos isn't the carry, I guess your second carry is Odoamne. I didn't see really anything out of Forgiven that makes me feel any better about him. But, you know, if Jankos can keep playing this way, and with all the different jungle champions that you could pick that have carry potential and have tank potential and have, you know, all the interesting things you can do with blast plants, that certainly was something that was really refreshing and makes me feel kind of dumb that I had them outside of the playoffs in my preseason predictions. Speaking about dumb and silly things, Chase, I believe you have a new segment for us.
I do. I don't know if this is going to be a running segment yet, but I'm certainly bringing it up this time around. You guys, if you're listening to the show before, you know that I was a League of Legends head coach in the challenger scene of Turkey, of all places.
I have pictures to prove it.
No, it's online. You can look it up on YouTube. I'm there. Just look up Imperial Esports back when we were in the spring there. But I really do care about pick and ban. I think it is something that coaches can really do a good job of getting their team in the right place. And here are 3 coaches this week that didn't do that. Number 3, I had Yamato Cannon on Splice swing for the fences. And he swung for basically every fence is the way I put it. Katarina, Ivern, and Kled all on the same team. If this wasn't against H2K, I would still think this was weird, because why would you have Ivern, who's the most passive jungler I can come up with, and then Kled and Katarina for full on, we are fighting and solo killing you all day long and snowballing, or we just lose? But to do it against H2K was an insult to H2K, and H2K made them pay for it. Number 2, Irene from Vitality let Camille loose in Game 2 versus Unicorns of Love. I don't understand. You're down a game in a best-of-3 series, and you decide to let Camille through against Vizichachi, who was the best top laner in Europe last year. I don't know. I guess they wanted to let Unicorns of Love win, and that's exactly what happened. Number 1, obviously, grabs for Roccat, giving up LeBlanc twice in a row versus G2. I don't know what else to add other than the fact that he let LeBlanc through twice against G2 and just watched as Perks hard carried against the team, and then seeing him hard carry in game 1, then said, you know what, let's get seconds. This seems like fun. This seems like a good plan for us winning moving forward. There is no excuse. There's no comprehension here that's going to make that particular decision okay. And these were the 3 worst pick and ban decisions I ever made. Shout out to Leduc, who gets the honorable mention of the week. Please stop picking 3 losing lanes in one game. It almost worked out for you guys, so I couldn't put you on the list, but you were this close, Leduc. I'm watching you. Watching you guys.
I had to go back to the Yamato Cannon point, because I hinted at it earlier. Marty, if you're listening, I'm sorry, dude. Week 1, Splice was probably the worst team out of all 10.
It was not good.
It was. I think Origin actually played better than Splice, and it's nothing I can pinpoint exactly. They just looked rusty. They just looked out of sync. They looked like sluggish. They looked like they had just gotten up and were like sipping on their coffee. Like it was rough to watch. It was really hard to watch, knowing how well they played all of last year. They didn't struggle early on. It was kind of consistent performance all through the year that steadily got better and better and better, and just to see them come out so flat, it's just incredibly disappointing, especially when it's, Caitlyn is still a very strong AD carry, so Kabi can play that, or he can go to more utility-focused, the Varus, the Ashe. He was also a good Jhin player. Like, that seems right in his wheelhouse. Getting more damage supports seemed to fit in Mickey's wheelhouse, too. He was very aggressive, and when Zyra came to prominence at the end of the summer, he really liked that champion, too. He really liked the Karma. He liked getting into the opposing team's faces. Tanks for Wonder makes absolute sense. He has some of the best teleport timings of any top laner in Europe, and they just didn't exist. His teleports were really bad. He had a lot where he just went back to lane, and it felt like Wonder of Spring. And Trashy and Senkux, they just started off on the wrong foot. They started out flat. It's a long split. They have 9 more weeks to play, but they're in the tougher of the two groups. They do have H2K in their group. They have Unicorns of Love in their group. They do have Vitality and Origin, and while I don't think either of those teams did anything to really make me say, like, Splice should truly be worried about them, like, they did play better than Splice this week, so that has to be a slight cause for concern. They'll figure it out. I have faith they'll figure it out, but already to start off with such a bad loss has got to be a tough pill to swallow. Anything else you want to say? Any other little surprise, disappointment, anything like that?
I mean, the one thing I'm going to tell people, I'm a lot less reactionary than a lot of analysts. I'm one of those people that says that sample size reigns above all else. And I say this when we've only seen 2 series from each team, let alone only 1 series from 8 of the 10 European teams. I am not ready to, start ringing any alarm bells, even for someone like Splice, who performed so far below what our expectations were.
Right.
I'm also not ready to raise anybody up too much farther than where I had them, because it's only 1 series. But I think that what we saw, with the exception of Splice, matched what we predicted in the regular before the season started. I didn't see anything that was particularly shocking to me as far as how things played out. I think the more interesting thing is how these things played out. I think it's less the macro of which teams won these individual series, and more about what patterns did we notice from the way they played the game, from their communication in big team fights, from their ability to rotate around the map effectively, which teams had it and which teams are figuring it out, and which teams look lost. And we can starting to put those teams in their own categories, and we're going to learn a lot more after this week for sure.
Well, Chase, we do have a way to measure if anything has changed. We're going to move on to the Guess the Lines portion of the podcast. Woo! We need like some air horns or something going off in the background, a siren. Like, this is the fun part.
I've got the air horn sound effect ready to go for the podcast, man. The audio version, at least. You got to step up your game. That's what I'm learning here. But yeah, let's talk about some games. Let's talk about
So after week 1, Chase is in fact up 2-0. He got both points last week, but I'm feeling pretty confident about this week. I've seen the odds. Chase hasn't seen the odds.
Yeah.
I feel very confident about this week.
That's not a good sign.
So we're going to dip right into the first one? Do we want to... Let's start with Unicorns of Love versus Oregon.
Well, we should quickly... We went 1-1 in our smart money bets.
Oh, yeah,
we had
1-1
Unicorns of Love.
Money bets, yeah.
Minus 125 over Vitality. That worked out well for us. Splice minus 125 against H2K Gaming. That did not work out well for us. But I think we make both those bets every time. We went 1-1. Overall, it's a net of negative $20 because, as we said last week, there was no value to be found. Let's hope that changes around this week. Walter, let's get started on week 1. Let's see if there's some value here.
Yes.
On game 1.
The Unicorns of Love versus Orien.
Yes.
Chase, after looking at week 1, Orien looks a little plucky. I'm not saying beating, a top 2 team in Europe plucky, but they looked plucky.
They looked fine. They looked like they deserved to be in the LCS, which I guess was the big concern when we just looked at the roster on paper, right? Nahun, I didn't see a lot of great plays. He had one great steal and then somehow managed to make a play in the 25th minute of game 2. And honestly, I could, go into all of the things I found wrong with his game, but I'm just going to describe. 25th minute, he teleported into the mid lane for a fight, ultimated out of the fight with his rift walk, with his little rift thing. He's Rise, I forget the formal name of it. Then came back into the lane to try to fight again, only to immediately die. It was incredible. It was 30 to 40 seconds of just sheer dumbass in a row, and I loved every second of it as someone who just enjoys watching League of Legends. Look, Sartorius is a League of Legends player. He is a top laner that does enough for me to say he's not going to lose them any games anytime soon. It does seem like that's where they're focusing their attention when they're drafting. They're picking for him pretty clearly early on and really trying to focus spans for the opponent away from that top lane to keep Sartorius comfortable as much as possible. I thought that their inexperience really cost them more than anything else. Certainly, if Sartorius positions better in the top lane in game 1, they don't lose that Baron that ends up snowballing the game for H2K there. I thought that in game 2, had they been a little bit more disciplined, they could have quite possibly come back in that game instead of losing because, the Rise came through and just took down their base entirely. Yeah. I don't particularly care for most of what Origin did, but there's enough sides that they're a team. If they were playing a bad team, I'd maybe feel differently, but this is Unicorns of Love. I think we know where this is going, and I had it minus 500 for the Unicorns of Love.
Well, Chase,
Unicorns of Love are so good.
You are going to start out week 2 with the point. You are going to beat me on this one. Sweet. I am all in on the Unicorns of Love. We're part of the fan club of theirs on Facebook now.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Zoldak, by the way, the Redditor who invited us into the International Unicorns of Love fan club. We are embracing the rainbow over there on the face space, so that's very nice.
I'm excited about that. I was so excited about it. I went Unicorns of Love minus 650. It was not that high. It was Unicorns of Love minus 526. That puts Orion at plus 350. No thanks. No, I don't think this is. No, I don't think that happens.
No, I think that Origin's going to be very happy if they could take a game off of him. Yeah. I think that would be a huge sign for their growth. I think they'll play him, close enough for them to feel okay.
It'll be like 40-minute games that Unicorns of Love will steadily, slowly squeeze them out and then have, a couple big fights towards the end. I don't expect a 10,000 gold spike at 10 minutes, but this seems like this will be a decent game. Definitely not expecting Orient to just completely roll over. The next game might be a little different. This feels like spring. This feels like spring Rocket. They're good in the early game, and then
are they? Are they really?
Not as good as last spring. I'll admit that, but they had some moments in the early game where I was like, okay, all right, I like it. And Misfits was way more even keel last week. You were the one that was very iffy and kind of wishy-washy on Misfits. So what did you think of Misfits after week 1?
I love Ignar. I thought Ignar played incredibly well. I loved his Taric. I thought that he did a very good job of punishing on that particular end, using those combos in order to make turn big team fights their direction. I thought he did very, very well with that. I thought Power of Evil looked like the change of scenery guy that I thought he might become. I think he looks like the mid laner that he was in 2015, over one series. Will he continue to be that way? I don't know. It's just one series. But there are signs of promise from him. I'm a lot less high on, I think Kakao is okay. I think that Alfari was fine. I was actually less impressed with him than most of the other new top laners I was less excited about. So that was kind of interesting. honestly, with Misfits, it was in general just sloppiness that punished them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear in the game that they lost to Giants. They just, they let out some weird picks that they weren't quite expecting from Giants. They allowed Memento to steal a Baron from them. That shouldn't have happened. The Flaxish, you have to have had an answer to that, and they just didn't. So I think for now they're okay. They're doing enough to be a team that can win a series when they need to. It really shouldn't take 3 games to beat Giants. It really, if you're going to be a playoff team, like a team that we are locking in and saying, you are a for sure lock to get out of Group A, shouldn't take 3 games.
So does that say more about Misfits or Giants? And then
I think it says more about Misfits. But
it says more about Misfits?
I'll get more into Giants later. I think that Misfits' mistakes were beating themselves. I think the way they lost game 1 came from a failure to understand where their power window was. They let the poke composition get to exactly where Giants wanted to be, and they ended up losing that one. There's a reason that they won game 2 in 26 minutes. That was great. I loved that kind of performance from them, where they can sneak a Baron and really just go at it from there. I really did not like the fact that they had 2 Barons stolen on them. That is how you get yourself beaten. But the good news for them is they're playing Roccat, and
yeah, okay, so what are Rockat's chances here? Chase, what's the line?
I am trying to talk myself off the ledge when it comes to Roccat. I'm going to say, just for now, the line I had Misfits minus 280. I don't care how badly Misfits plays. They should be favored by quite a bit here.
And they are favored by quite a bit. I said Misfits minus 333. It is, in fact, Misfits minus 357.
Okay.
So if you compare it to their Giants, it actually went up.
Okay.
So it went up a little bit. So definitely think that that Roccat are worse than Giants, which makes sense. That was how all the futures odds and everything were too.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, Roccat went 0-2 last week and gave up LeBlanc twice and had very few signs of life, if at any of them. I'm trying to, like, Betsy really was inconsistent in a way that was not okay for me. That was, as a fan, that was concerning. I think that Giants right now deserve to have a little bit more there. What's the Roccat plus line, just out of curiosity?
Roccat plus line is Roccat at plus 250.
250. Okay.
Not bad, but it's not like anything that I'd write home about.
I want to believe in a bounce back week, but not for that odd.
Well, I don't want to punish you too much, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna move on to Vitality versus Splice. Float like a butterfly, strike like a snake. Neither team looked great. Let's be honest. Neither team looked good last week. You already brought up the coaching troubles that both of them had. Coming into this matchup, who needs this win more?
I think Vitality needs this win. I think both teams need the win, but I think Vitality really needs this win. Because the way that they just got beat by Unicorns of Love was rough. And the difference here is that at least Splice, we know that 4 of those 5 guys have played together when they've been on a losing streak and bounced back as a team. I trust that the players, at the very least, that are on Splice understand how to play together, what it's like to be on a team together when they win, what it's like to be together on a team when they lose, and how to bounce back from whatever situation comes their way. We don't have any of that with this particular iteration of the Vitality roster. I thought Joko looked rough. I thought Cabashard looked terrible for a lot of this series. He got destroyed. I made a note in game 2 when he made one good play in the top lane. I was like, he's relevant, kinda, almost. Immediately got himself killed a few minutes later, but he was relevant for a second there. I swear. I don't know, man. There's so few positives for Vitality. Like, at least for Splice, you talk yourself into the idea that, game 1, some mispositioning errors. Kabi and Mickey were clearly just not prepared for some of these Yanko skanks. But Yankos went off. That's going to happen at least once game 2. Weird pick and ban. Nothing that they haven't lost from in the past and couldn't come back from now. This Vitality team, if they go down 0-2, and they now are looking at, Hachani, who's being caught out of position, Kabashard, who looks bad, Joko, who looks Nukeduck, who looks about the same, this could escalate very quickly for Vitality in a way they really don't want.
Do we see GBM in week 2? Jungle, or people have been pointing out he has been playing a bunch of mid lane on EU West. Do we see him at either position? Or third position? Does he play for Kabashard? Who knows?
I'm going to peg him for week 3. I think it's going to take one more week. I think one series is too quick to react. Maybe by if they're struggling against Origin, maybe we see him in like a game there. I don't think you can risk putting him in against Splice unless you think he's ready to go. And the fact that he's playing 2 different positions in solo queue, I don't know. I think we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But I think, like I said, both teams need this victory. I think Splice is going to take it. I have Splice minus 150, though. I punished him for this loss. I thought it was a bad one.
Well, you punished them way too much, my friend.
Oh, did I?
Okay. I said Splice minus 250. It is, in fact, Splice minus 263. So, not quite punishing a Worlds participant as much. They did lose against a very good team. H2K is, in fact, 2-0, and Vitality also has looked awful. Joko leaves. I can't believe this is the same guy that played so well on Unicorns of Love for those 2 weeks. It's kind of mind-boggling that he is this poor.
I just want to point out that Vitality was minus 105 against the Unicorns of Love last week. And now they're at plus what against Splice?
Plus 195.
Okay. Just so we know where we are. Minus 105 against Unicorns of Love, plus 195 against Splice.
It's one hell of a swing.
We didn't know what Unicorns of Love had, and Splice lost badly last week.
It's a hell of a swing.
That is
It's a hell of a swing.
For one series from both teams, mind you. Okay, let's move on. Whatever, I don't even care.
Moving on to El Clásico.
Yes, let's do it.
Giants versus Fnatic. I don't even think we can refer to Fnatic as El Clásico. Like, I think it's Giants versus Orient is El Clásico now. Like, this Fnatic can't be included in that. There's no Spanish. There's no Xpeke. We have officially moved on from the Xpeke era of Fnatic. We are now into this new era where Caps is he's not bad.
Yeah,
I was pretty impressed with him. But more so, Chase, I want to hear your thoughts on this Fnatic bot lane because you might owe a certain person an apology.
I didn't say anything mean about Reckless. What are you talking about? Reckless played amazingly. I was very sad when his Kennen eventually was in vain because they just couldn't find a way to make anything happen in game 3. Almost like Ivern does no damage or something. I liked what I saw from Fnatic overall. I thought that they, the mistakes that they made were the kind of mistakes that you expect a team that is mostly never played together to make. Obviously Caps is brand new. Jesus has never played in the, support position in Europe. He played for one tournament in North America, and certainly he hasn't played in over a year. So
technically that tournament was in Europe.
Oh, well then,
I am kind of need to say. I just have to technicalities here, friend.
No, thank you, because someone would have commented in the YouTube section, so shout out to you. I liked what I saw more than what I disliked. Did Jesus do anything to surprise me? No, I didn't think that he was particularly bad. I thought he could be bad. I think he played all right. I didn't see anything that allows me to, get excited about him yet, though, because it wasn't an individual thing that determined why Fnatic lost this game. It was the fact that from a macro perspective, the team was just lost. I mean, God, the Caps play on the Baron in game 1 where he's coming in on the back end and just getting destroyed and just torn to shreds because I don't know what he thought he was going to do there. There's clearly no way he's going to steal the Baron from that angle with the the jungler still firmly in place. So I don't know what the plan was, but he did it anyway. 3 losing lanes for Fnatic, another thing you got to love when coaches do that. But at least Baby Faker, as they called him all week, he did well. I really with the exception of that Baron play, I thought he mostly played very well in lane. Definitely wasn't afraid to take chances, wasn't afraid to take his shots, and I thought he did so with efficiency. I thought that as a general rule, Ceades looked more zoned in than I've seen him in a while. Agreed. If the question was Ceades going to mentally bounce back from his Origin days, I think the answer is yes. He looked mentally put together. Did anyone in this team really do anything to shock me? No, not particularly. And I am going to laugh at the fact that Ceades managed to dual expect in the top lane in a way where they both killed each other. That is something we should all be able to laugh at as League of Legends fans and admit that maybe they didn't always make good macro plays. But the micro stuff, their mechanics are solid. If they figure out where they need to be on the map and start taking objectives when they need to and stop letting the other team dictate the pace of the game, Fnatic could be very good.
Who made the call to rise Realm Warp into the base in Game 2 to end the game? Who made that call?
I mean, it has to be Ceades, right? You have to assume.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it could have been Ceades. Ceades is a very intelligent player, and as someone who was on the other end of the SK IEM Katowice loss with the Peke backdoor, it seems like it would be in play. Like someone would know. Someone would have explained to him, this is how you lose bad games like this. It was very. That was the one time I thought Fnatic really looked like they knew what they were doing. But that game went 40-something minutes. What in the world, Fnatic? Close a game, please. Please close a game. That was almost a quite bad 0-2. And we'd probably be talking about it very differently. But this is why you don't overreact to one series, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, let's overreact to one series then. Chase!
Gambling
this
guide?
Series!
Yes.
We're going to put all of our money and all of our savings accounts on this one game. What are the odds? How much money are we making?
I assume it's Fnatic minus 400. I think this is a classic minus 400 line.
Well, you are going to get this, not because you are right, but because you are closer. I said Fnatic minus 450. It is Fnatic minus 303. That puts Giants at plus 220.
That
so 4 games in, and we're tied.
That is interesting. You already know how this ended. I don't know why you get to say you don't like this. I don't like this. I'm also not sure I like that line. Giants
it seems low.
Yeah.
It just seems low, but I guess I don't know.
It's one of those things
like G2.
Do you look at Giants at plus 220 and say that looks good? Are the flaws that are inherent in Fnatic the kind of thing that Giants could take advantage of? And the problem I have there is, maybe if they had stronger macro play, but it's Giants, and Memento is their jungler, and I did not see very cohesive macro play from them.
Although, man, watching this Flaxus versus Ceades matchup is going to be tasty.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this will be a fun series. I just don't think it's one
good calamari.
Yes.
Speaking of good series, though.
Yes.
The series of the week. Unicorns of Love versus H2K. Mm-hmm. These are the 2 best teams in Europe right now, I think. I think they're better than G2. Right now, currently. That's not to say that G2's this is top 3 and they're all very close, but I think these 2 teams are slightly better than G2.
Poor G2 is looking at this look, Roccat gave us LeBlanc twice. I don't know what you wanted us to do. I agree. I think both these teams are very, very good. I love what I saw from H2K, just in the sense that we actually got to see 2 series from H2K. Mm-hmm. So I have some actual confirmation on some of my feelings for once. And that tells me that this bot lane's actually really good. I really liked what I saw from Nuclear and Che. I had huge problems as to were they going to fit together well as pieces of a puzzle, and the answer is yes. They fit together just fine.
They did.
I thought that, maybe it's just where the meta is, but I thought Nuclear in particular looked very nice. Che mechanically did what he needed to do. The team as a whole seemed to communicate effectively. Does that mean that they made all of the right calls? No. I thought their series against Origin was particularly sloppy. The fact that they were keeping even in lane despite the fact that Jankos was eating at a buffet essentially for that entire Origin series seemed kind of silly to me, but that's the world in which we live. And let's face it, that's okay because they have Jankos. They have this guy who can just get crazy fed and turn around big fights for him and be sure to get that big Baron or Dragonsteel when they need it and just do Jankos things. Do I have problems? Absolutely. I think that they, in particular in their series against Origin, they really struggled at how to close out a game. This is something that's going to be a running trend in my analysis on a lot of these teams after week one. Really,
No way.
You shouldn't need that second or third Baron and then have a fight go completely, in an ace or whatever to close out a game. Korean teams have figured this out, guys. I swear to God, if you fight beforehand and you get enough kills, you can get the kind of towers and put map pressure and just get free stuff. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. I believe you guys.
So here's the thing. I look at this series and I go, okay, they're two really, really good teams.
Yes.
I think H2K's weakness is in the middle lane, and still like the bot lane. Like I don't think the bot lane is amazing. I think they're very good, and I look at Unicorns of Love and I just look at it's a really young jungler in Xerxes against Jankos, who's the best jungler in Europe at this moment.
Yes.
I love Exile. I think he's great, but Fabivin does just have this ability to play lane even. Samux and Hylissang look good, but they weren't carrying Unicorns of Love at all. They were, again, very much clean up team fights, Hylissang shot calling, being the primary initiator, etc., etc. And then it's Vizichachi versus Ottawamne, two of the best top laners in Europe. So I look at the inexperience that Unicorns of Love have at jungle and mid, and I look at H2K, and I'm worried here.
Yeah.
Should I be right to be worried here, or am I letting go of the unicorn magic too quickly?
I think we might be letting go of some magic a little bit quick, mostly because Vizichachi and Hylissang are still the guys who are going to be making all of the important decisions when it comes down to, what shot calls are important, whether the experience is going to come through. Look, I love this Unicorns of Love team.
I do too. I genuinely do too.
Of all the teams, and I'm going to say this probably in the whole West, this is the only team that I left without any massive question marks on my book. I have some question marks. Every team has question marks, but there wasn't one hanging over the Unicorns of Love after week one was done where I was like, I still don't have a big answer here. Because the answer is, Xerxes is as good as advertised. He is the 17-year-old jungler who just looked really sharp in his performance there. I loved the plays that he was able to make. The rumble in the jungle, as I always like to call it. Yes. Game 2 was so good. He just had such a great, knack for when to roam and when to make plays and getting as many ticks on that ult as he can to just wear these enemies down. So good on his placement. The guy you would never believe he was 17, and you never would have believed that any of these Unicorns of Love guys were, as inexperienced as they were when they first hit the LCS stage. There's just something about how Sheepy grows them in his factory, whatever secret laboratory that the Unicorns of Love have to brew their magic.
Would you say he's an excellent shepherd of young talent?
Begrudgingly, yes. Yes, I would. But only begrudgingly, to be fair. In my defense. Yeah, look, this is going to be the game of the week for me. I am
straight up
so excited. I have not been excited for a best of 3 to this extent in a while, just because, week one's just fun all around. It's like, yeah, we get League again, and now I get to actually look at this and see this could be a semifinals matchup. Or this could even be
finals.
This could be finals, third place. It's going to be a relevant game between two relevant teams as this season continues to go forward. And I can't wait to see whether H2K steps up to this big challenge that Unicorns of Love will be presenting in just their pure mechanical skill and solid playstyle, or if H2K are going to look like they did in their series against Splice, where we don't care that you're cohesive, we're better than you, and we know it, which is what they were able to do there. So I'm very excited to see this one. I have it at H2K minus 130.
The casinos disagree with you.
Okay.
They are not riding the Rainbow Unicorn yet.
Oh, boy.
I said H2K minus 175.
Okay.
It is H2K minus 212.
Okay.
So I'm going to get this one here, and that makes the Unicorns of Love underdogs at plus 160.
And that means our smart money bet for European week is Unicorns of Love plus
It was
160.
already bolded. Don't worry about it. I've seen all the lines, and this one's going to be a smart money bet. I'm not confident in it as a smart money bet because I think this is a very even series. But compared to the rest of the odds we have, this is about as no-brainer as you can have for us to make. It's, like we said, it's a 50-50 series. You thought it was minus 130 for H2K, which means that Unicorns of Love would be somewhere between minus 105 and plus 105.
Yeah.
And they're giving us plus 160, which means that the casinos think there are a less likely chance of Unicorns of Love winning this than we do. That's an instant lock-in of that bet.
Yeah. Just a
totally
friendly reminder for people who are new to the show. We do our best bets of the week. I swear I can English. We do our best bets of the week based off of who has the most value.
Yes.
And a Unicorns of Love plus 160, that's the casino saying, yeah, about, 30% of the time this happens. This happens about 50% of the time. This is a toss-up, and they're giving us about 20% of free value. I will take that every time. And you know what? I think Unicorns of Love actually do win this series. I think that right now, H2K still showed some clear problems in how they played the map in their series against Origin, and just how long it took them to close out some of this stuff and how sloppy their mid game was. Unicorns of Love can take advantage of that without falling behind the way Splice did.
Unicorns are very clean in terms of macro. I will say Yanko's super experienced first Split King against the young rookie. It makes me nervous. This is not, I think he's still going to be a fantastic jungler, but this is his second series on the EULCS stage. It might be a little early to expect him to beat Yankos, but we'll see. That's why they play the games. And speaking of the games, the Miami Misfits will be taking on G2 Esports in the next game on Saturday, the second game on Saturday. Chase, we talked about Misfits quite a bit. We brought up Expect a little bit with G2. What about Perks? What did we think of Perks after week 1?
Perks looked good. He looked great. I mean, look, this is Perks doing Perks things. He got his LeBlanc twice. That's really all you could want on that end. I never had a play in their series against Fnatic where I said, ooh, man, that Perks really cost him there. Was he always perfect positioning? No. You're never going to get a Perks game with 100% perfect positioning. But one of the perks of having Perks, one could say, is that those little mistakes aren't going to matter when you look at the sheer volume of nice plays that the guy does make. And in every one of the games this week, he was a presence that you had to feel across the map. His roams were on point. They were consistent. They were one of those things where the enemy team was, at the very least having to spend flashes and summoner spells to deal with at a constant rate because they know when to put pressure on the right lanes at the right time. Honestly, I give G2 a lot of credit for the fact that they stayed in that second game against Fnatic as long as they did, because as I said, Fnatic should have won that in under 30 minutes. It took almost 45. It was insane how long G2 were able to elongate that game. That comes to being able to make the right decisions, having the people in the right places at the right time, and giving yourself a shot. And then when you do that, well, then now you get to have the situation where you can go crazy on LeBlanc, or you can get away with some poor positioning like he did in Game 3 because he's making more plays on the other side of things. And that is the Perk story. You accept that it will never be as clean as it could be because he will make more plays than he probably should. And that's just how that goes. And I think he's going to continue that against Misfits. I was looking at the lines from last week. G2 was so heavily favored against Roccat. I'm assuming they're getting just all of the points in this one as well. I had G2 minus 600.
Well, like the Green Bay Packers, they aren't covering all the points. Let's be honest here. I said G2 at minus 400. It is G2 at minus 416.
Okay.
So quite a bit lower where you went. I think slight overreaction, maybe not giving Misfits enough credit.
Well, also remember that we work off of the plus-minus scale, whereas Unicorn uses the decimal scale. Yeah. So it exponentially, my numbers are going to get more and more off as you guess higher, because there are just fewer numbers that are actually on the decimal scale.
Yes.
So I wasn't as bad off as the 200 points sounds compared to the amount of points that they would be getting if it was, say, between 100 and 300. Those are much closer together than 400 to 600, or even 400 to 2,000, if you look at it from that logarithmic scale. So, yeah, maybe it could have given Misfits a little bit more credit. I'm not surprised by where the line is. That puts Misfits at what?
Plus 290.
290. What is that? I might have to come back to them later. I want to see what their odds are if they get one map off of G2 with a handicap. Because I don't think G2 is... I think G2 is very, very, very good. I think that they did show some mistakes, especially in that Fnatic series. Misfits could maybe get a game.
Misfits is at...
Everyone's favorite part of the audio format, obviously.
Minus 117 with the handicap.
That's a shame.
Just to put it in perspective, the G2 2-0 is at minus 111.
Okay.
So there's really no love in the handicaps.
Yeah, never mind. Worth a shot. Let's go Vitality versus Origin. I'm excited about this.
Dude, I'm excited in terms of, like, gambling on it. I'm not excited in terms of watching it. Like, I don't know how I feel about this series, because we have a chance that both teams are going to probably be 0-2. And as bad as Cabochard and Joko looked, Steelbeck looked phenomenal.
Yeah, he did.
And I just think about Steelbeck playing against Tabs, and I kind of go, poor Tabs. Poor Tabs. He never recovered from his Alliance days. He just never did. He never was that phenomenal Fizz mid laner. He was just kind of mediocre to above average 80 carry, and he hasn't been able to wash that stink off of him. So I guess, why are you so excited, to watch this series then?
Well, because this could be the first time that we see a week 2 loser leaves town match, dude. We never get this. We never get this. But you look at H2K, Unicorns of Love, and they're just too good. They're two super solid teams who are going to make the playoffs. We can lock those two in right now. I would be shocked if H2K and Unicorns of Love were not playoff teams. Whether they're going to be as good as they are right now, we will see, but they look like very clearly playoff potential.
Right.
Meanwhile, you kind of have to assume Splice figures something out. At least they will be a threat moving forward. But if both of these teams are sitting at 0-2, which is what you and I both predict, then we have a situation in which one of these teams is going 0-3 and will have lost their first 3 intergroup matches, and one of them is going to be 1-2 with some upside heading into week 3, and heading into the groups playing against each other, which we're going to have for that kind of intermediary time. This is potentially huge. And I love just the mental test that's coming in here. You know, which team is going to be able to keep their presence of mind if the draft doesn't go particularly their way, or if they lose an early lead because of, some, either a misclick or something goes wrong. These, or even just the other team gets a gank on you early. Can you recover mentally from this? We've got a lot of young guys on both teams who are about to take the test, and I'm not sure where Joko's going to go on this test. I have no idea where Nehun ends up on this test. I think, we're going to see a lot of, who on Origin is ready to step up and try to be the guy for this team, and does Vitality have enough, kick in their step where they're willing to come back from what could look like a couple bad losses and really take it to this Origin roster. I think that it's going to be fun from that angle. I think the fan base of whatever team loses this series is going to have a really rough time going forward. I think this is going to be a long climb back, if there's a climb at all to be had.
Well, Chase, it might be a little rough going forward for you if you don't nail this pick, because if you don't get this, I then win the week, and I have your lead a week and a half into the Guess the Lines challenge. So when all is said and done, where did you put the line?
I had Vitality minus 180.
Swing and a miss. You are not even in the same ballpark, my friend. To be fair, I only went Vitality minus 200. It's Vitality minus 303.
What?
Yeah, it's Vitality minus 303. With that, I'm going to win the week. It means that the Roccat line doesn't actually matter, so you don't get, you don't lose twice on that line. Just no respect. No respect for Orion. Just no respect for Orion. Plus 220 for Orion.
Oh man,
plus 220.
We might come back to that.
That's kind of interesting. But the next line is also kind of interesting the final matchup of Week 2. Chase, you're talking about loser goes home matches. Well, this is just as important as Vitality versus Orion, because one of these losers probably will be going home at the hands of Paris Saint-Germain in, about 11 weeks' time. Yeah. Chase, let's talk some shop on Giants. We know Roccat. I don't want to torch you. Let's talk some shop on Giants.
Sure.
Why were you so wrong about Flackshish? And please don't be satirical like you were with your apology and your ode to Forgiven. I want some actual apologies for this young player. Come on. Let's go. Let's bring him out.
He had a very good Alawi game.
That he did.
He had a very good Alawi game. He was a late game bully, despite the fact that Misfits took such an early lead in game 1. Mm-hmm. They were able to win that mid-game objective control fight. They were able to claw their way back. Flaxus was a huge part of all of that. So I will give him credit where credit is due, which also means he gets all of the blame for everything that happens in game 2 and 3, which it just, they got bullied by some of these Misfit laners. I didn't see enough from him in game 2 for me to go, or game 3 for that matter, to go, oh yeah, he's going to be consistently great. What it tells me is he's got one pocket pick, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong. Shout out to you, Flaxus. You got one. Piglet has a Twitch counter pick. You're not gonna hear.
If he ever gets Camille or Fiora, it'll be game over. I can guarantee you.
Sure, but why would he? And this is the problem that Giants have, which is that Flaxus without one of those champions is not the same kind of guy, and it's so easy in this meta to either ban those kind of things away, or have him end up on a tank type thing, or at the very least take the kind of tank that can deal with this. I don't love the idea of Flaxus being the guy who needs to carry a game for you, which is a problem because Knight was not that guy this
You would have hated watching the North American Challenger seed then. You would have hated watching Nova because that literally was their plan.
Look, and there's nothing. You know what? I get that for a Challenger team. For a Challenger team, that's a great idea. For a professional scene team, you need multiple options. I talk all the time on this show. Multiple ways to win. It's a huge part of being one of the top tier teams in a professional region, in a power professional region for that matter. You have to be able to understand what your win condition is by the composition and have multiple attacks for it. I want to see how Flaxus looks when he's being forced onto tanks, which we didn't get, we got to see, later on against Misfits. I think we're going to see it again. I think he's going to have to prove that he has a second option. Until then, I'm not willing to give him a lot. More than that, I guess I could say. I did like the idea of Knight on Corki. The idea of it, of course, being better than what actually ended up happening.
Execution was kind of mediocre, yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. He was just kind of okay in general. I don't really care for most of what I saw from Knight or from Hiku for that matter. Memento, not a great ganking jungler, but apparently he just gets all of the Baron steals. Apparently that's just a thing. The jungling gods came down from the heaven and told Memento, you can have one of two things. You can either be a good jungler, or you can be good at stealing dragons and barons, and he opted for the latter category, and that'll do something for him. It'll keep him in games.
He pulled the reverse Saint Vicious. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, whatever deal Saint Vicious made cost him his smiting ability, he made the exact opposite. But the good news for them is they're playing Roccat. And while last Sunday was me getting to celebrate my favorite team in a sport rising to the occasion and earning themselves a chance for the NFL championship, this week I'm going to be watching my favorite team desperately try not to fall to 0-3, because if they do, I don't know what happens from here. I'm already seeing all of Reddit start to root against them, especially with the LeBlanc bans being what they were. I don't think I can take another week of disappointment.
And you know what? You don't have to. There's always the Pro Bowl. Chase, what's the line on this one?
It's a shame they're doing the actual fun stuff on Thursday. I want to see the dodgeball, but I can't use that as an excuse to get out of a Roccat game. Maybe out of the Misfits one. I have Giants minus 150. They should be favored here.
And you're going to win this one. It doesn't matter because I already won the week. I said Giants minus 135. It is Giants minus 232.
Wow.
Little disrespectful to Roccat, in my opinion.
May I refer back to our notes on one series sample size? How have these teams distinguished themselves from each other? They're both losers. Hell, you can make a good case for Roccat. Like, there's no way they screw up pick and ban that same way twice in a row, right? Like, I mean, granted, they did it 2 games in a row.
They did it 2 games in a row.
God, they're totally going to do it twice in a row, aren't they?
So Falcons boy.
Yeah.
You feeling lucky?
What's Rockat's plus line?
Plus 175.
Okay.
You feeling lucky?
No. Not on that one.
No.
I feel better about Origin plus 220, though.
I do like that one. I do actually like that one quite a bit. So I'd say we lock that one in. And then
I just didn't see anything from Vitality that makes me feel like they should be favored as minus 303 against anybody.
Well, so then you're either picking the only other ones that are under 200. I guess we could go Giants over Fnatic. I don't like that one. I don't think that happens.
No.
The only other ones that are like under 200 are Vitality over Splice or Roccat over Giants.
Yeah,
it's not great odds this week for us.
I guess I would rather. Here's the problem. I'm already having to bet money on Origin and dealing with the week of stress that I'm going to be giving myself, because I will have to think to myself, oh God, one of our 3 smart money bets this week relies on Origin being good. And so I don't feel like, I think adding Roccat to that would be just mean. It would be unfair to the fans who actually listen to us on this show. You're sure Misfits is going to be better this week, right? You're absolutely sure?
Misfits are playing against G2 and Roccat?
Right. I'm looking at plus 250 and thinking that's not the craziest thing in the world. Misfits almost dropped that series against a team that we're not convinced is particularly great. I'm not sure, if things turn around and they don't pick so badly.
It's more likely they beat Giants than Misfits.
Sure, I don't think it's 75. I think the 75 extra points versus a couple. I don't know how much more favorite it is. Let's just go Roccat over Giants then. That's fine.
I think that's more likely to happen. That's fine.
I just, at this point, we're just telling our viewers, we're telling you, Origin and Roccat, guys, trust us.
It's not our fault that there's some bad lines this week, okay? There's not very good lines. I'm sorry, folks. But yeah, we have Unicorns of Love at plus 160 over H2K. We have Orion at plus 220 over Vitality. And we have Roccat at plus 175 over Giants. Those are our smart money bets. We do not guarantee a return on any investment, despite the fact that we do claim that we are experts because it says so in our Twitter bios. And that's a podcast. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for hanging out with us for an hour while you're on your way to work, while you're sitting at your computer playing League of Legends. Whatever you're doing, we appreciate you. And we hope you will come back tomorrow, because we're going to cover week 2 of the North American League of Legends Championship Series. And I'm going to have to eat some crow. So if anyone wants to get some last shots in at me before that episode, you can find me at Ceades_LOL. And you can torture this Atlanta Falcons fan up here. Chase, where can the good folks at home find you?
Find me at RedShirtKing. Let's keep the conversation going, guys. I love hearing from you on the social media. I love getting to talk to you guys on Reddit and joining this UOL fan club. This has been a lot of fun. Keep it up. You want to invite me to more fan clubs, I will bandwagon on whatever team you want to invite me to. So just saying, I am available, and my allegiance can be bought. So shout out to them, and thank you guys for listening.
We accept cookies and Tom Brady Uggs. Matt Ryan is overrated.
Oh!
Goodbye, Internet. Hey there, Ceades here. Thanks for checking out the podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, consider supporting us at www.patreon.com/roughdraftspod. For just $1 a month, you can join your fellow listeners in our patron-only Discord channel and help keep the content coming. Or join our VIP club, where $1 a show or $8 a month gets you first priority on all patron content, like our patron-only Q&As. And check us out on all of our social media: Twitter @RoughDraftsPod, Facebook.com/RoughDraftsPod, SoundCloud.com/esportsroughdrafts, as well as on iTunes and YouTube by just searching for the Rough Drafts Podcast. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, Internet.